Blaine Bettinger has done a great job about gathering information about the DNA we share with different relationships through his Shared CM project. But what about when we look at a family over 4 generations? What does the shared DNA look like with that small group of people? Howdy, I'm Andy Lee with Family History Fanatics, and this is a segment of DNA. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell if you want to get notification about upcoming episodes. Before Blaine's Shared CM project, we just had percentages based on DNA halving with each generation in order to determine how people could be related. Because of the Shared CM project, we can actually see what those ranges are between relationships and how those ranges overlap between relationships. In my family, I've been able to test 4 generations: my grandparents, my parents, myself and my siblings, and my children. So how do the numbers from our family stack up to what the Shared CM project shows? I'll try to keep relationships unconfusing as possible by referring to my grandfather, my father, myself, my siblings, and my children. First, when looking at DNA comparing a parent-child relationship, it's not that interesting because we get half of our DNA from each one of our parents. We get 1 set of chromosomes from our mom and 1 set of chromosomes from our dad. But once you start comparing 3 generations or more, it can get a little interesting. Here's a chart of me and my siblings compared to my grandfather. Now, on average, we should share about 25% of our DNA. And you can see that my 3 siblings and I all share really close to 25% of our DNA with our grandfather. In fact, I share exactly 25% of my DNA with my grandfather. There isn't much variability in these 4 sample points, even though the Shared CM project shows that a grandparent-grandchild relationship could have between 20% and 30% of shared DNA. So next, we're going to look at my children compared to my father. This is also a grandparent-grandchild relationship. It shows a little bit different story. Unlike with me and my siblings, there's actually a wide range of shared DNA between my children and my father. In fact, the lowest one is at 20%, which is near the bottom of what the Shared CM project shows. And the largest one is at 27.5%. So this is the same type of relationship, a grandparent-grandchild, except with these 5 different samples, the variability is much larger and it spreads over more of the range that Blaine Bettinger's project has shown. So seeing the results of my children compared to my father, can you guess which one shares the most DNA with my grandfather? That would be a 4-generation spread. If you're tempted to choose the highest and the lowest from the 3-generation spread, stop. You're getting ahead of yourself. Remember, the DNA that my children share with my father is a combination of the DNA from my grandfather and my grandmother. And because I happen to share exactly 25% of my DNA with my grandfather and my grandmother, there's really no way to tell which one is going to have the most. But here are the results, and you can see that my 3rd child shares the most DNA with my grandfather, and not my 2nd child, who shared the most DNA with my father. On the flip side, my 4th child shares the least amount of DNA with my grandfather, and in fact, the amount of DNA that child shares with my grandfather is on the very low end of what Blaine Bettinger shows is the range for this. So my 4th child is a real outlier in that case. It's very possible that 2 to 3 generations from now, there may be some descendants of my 4th child who don't share any DNA with my grandfather. Also of note when you're looking at this, even though I shared 25% of my DNA with my grandfather, none of my children share even as much as 12.5% of DNA with my grandfather. DNA is kind of random and unpredictable like that. Let's look at my father's sister. My siblings and I share about 25% of our DNA with her. Again, this is in a pretty narrow range. My children, on the other hand, they share a much broader range, from 8.7% all the way up to 11.6% of DNA being shared with my aunt. But again, nobody shares even as much as 12.5% of DNA with her, even though that is the average value that would be expected. Lastly, let's look at my children compared to my siblings. Now we can see that there is a lot of variability. S2 stays in a narrow range just below 25%. S1 stays in a narrow range centered around 26%. And S3? Well, S3 is interesting because that sibling has the most shared DNA with one of my children, but also the least shared DNA with one of my children. To sum it up, except for parents and children, shared DNA is not going to be the same for every relationship. The more distant the relationship is, the more variability you should expect to see in the amount of shared DNA. If you have any questions, be sure to put it in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends.